back to my channel, I guess. I'm Ben from Second Dynasty, creator of the Starship series of Kickstarters and STL printable, 3D printable 28mm scale spaceships. We are back in the office. This time I'm by myself going solo. I suspect that Zorama is getting some much needed shut eye. And as you can see here, I have a very messy scene of the Notanante, the ship I've been working on. Hey, why didn't I turn that off before? This looks much better. Yeah, it's coming along well. There's some interesting points that I'll bring up, but I'm just going to wait until we've actually got a few of you that might be making it in here. So if you're coming to the chat, please, guys, just say hi, if nothing else, so I know I'm not talking to myself, and that there is actually a few people in the audience. Also, let me know if you can hear me. I know some people have been complaining about my microphone levels. So today's session is going to be part 2 of looking at some modifications to the long transport delta. Basically, we've got some. We're doing overhauls so that we're adding a top deck to the regular extension here. So this is, I don't even know if it'll be finished today, but the idea is that these are approximately hour-long sessions. But before we get into those details, I thought I would go on a little bit of a tour of the Notanante, and we can look at this week's progress. Its exterior is almost completely printable at this point. Get a Brasveen. Jeez, my phone's going off here and I've just got to turn it off. Alright, there we go. Now I can concentrate on the rest of the stream. Sorry for the poor video quality today. It is a bit of a dark, dreary day. We've been having nice summer weather, but it seems to have disappeared. And as always, if any of you guys have any questions or comments, please let them be known in the chat, and I'll see what I can do about answering them. So, you know what? Before we get into too much detail, why don't we actually take a tour of the actual model? I suspect I might have to do this more than once, and this time I'm going to lift the microphone as well so that you guys can hopefully hear me. And we're going to look at the actual model. Wait, I need to switch it over to the close-up mode. So again, sorry for the shitty camera work. I might just... but this is kind of hard to coordinate. Let's see. Okay, so we now have all decks aboard the ship. And you can see we've gone all the way to the feet, and it's now standing on its own 4 feet. In fact, yesterday I only had 2 of these printed and it stood on 2 feet, so very stable. Meaning that we also have... Alright, you can see it a little bit better here maybe. You can see the approximate scale to the other ships. And yeah, she's quite tall. Up to the start of the antenna, I believe, is 73 centimeters. So with them included, I think we're about up to about 80 odd centimeters, something like that. So we've got a few pieces missing from the side here where the PDCs are going to be located. So we'll tour that in 3D. The details I'm very happy with. Next to print is the actual engines. There's a few nice details breaking up this pattern. I think it looks way better when it's actually being printed. You can see a few print defects there. I had my adhesion issues. They're now solved. But this is just my own prototype. This is not going to be the one that features in the video. That's being printed in the UK by Proteus and painted by Brian Jenkins. Let's see. Let me get back in shot. And instead of my ugly mug, you can look at the beauty that is the Naughty. Been posting about the Naughty's naughty. By that I just mean the engine block here. These are all set up now for printing. Let's see. That's not the one I wanted. Maybe this one? Yeah. So just to show what the actual nozzles look like at the moment, Zaroma and I are actually planning a light kit. So you can either print this without it and it'll just have a hole, but hopefully we'll just slot in a light here. There'll be plenty of room for a coin battery in the engine room, and we'll be able to have some very bright lights that work on the engines there. So all 5 are in place. We have the structure to support them inside in place, and the major work at this moment is actually on the PDC section, and this is where we can see the progress here. So, as usual, I've gone and bitten off more than I can really chew with this, I suspect. Right at this moment, I'm sort of trying to figure out a way to get these to pop out and rotate, and I've just about got it now. You can actually see I've imported some of the parts from the scout ship lift, and the reason for this being that I want to reuse the rails. They'll probably get attached to, let me see if I can just move these slightly. You can see you've got these connectors on the back that we are mounting it to, so they're going to be hopefully partially built into this, and it'll slide down, flip out, and let's see if I can actually show it. So this one's actually upside down right now. This is what we want to see. Not that, but this. All right, let's try and focus. So yeah, we've got this section. You're going to just have to use your imaginations, but it will this is actually upside down right now, so it'll be more like this. So this here will flip out so that it becomes parallel to that. So that stops it from falling more than those degrees. So it'll be sticking out 90 degrees instead of vertical. Doors should work so that you open the doors and flip it out. So I'm trying to make this long enough that it has enough clearance to get out as well, and isn't too high. I think this is about 1 inch there for reference. So this is the same size cannon as the one on the fighter pack. I started going with the bigger cannon and it just won't fit in the hole without making the PDC housings stick out way more than what they already do. So yeah, this here will fold out, and then of course this will flip out, and at the next level you can sort of make it go whatever direction, and so you've got this sort of controlled like so. So not exactly the same as the Rossi, but definitely something that'll be practical and you should be able to get many angles out of as a sort of compromise. So hopefully you guys can see the potential of this. I know there's just a couple of you here today. See, you're there, Chris, as well. So I kind of like the look of things. You'll be able to switch out this gun for a couple of different variants, no doubt. Uses the same slide connector as the Space Fighters, so it should be quite easy to switch. But yeah, those are the main things. I would say it's actually a pretty big thing. I've got these the original doors, and then you can see a few examples of the stowage. So I'm still going to have to work on the frame a little bit, making this so that it's actually all printable. But overall, I'm fairly pleased with its progress. So that's the main thing I'm going to try and get done this afternoon so I can test print it. And yeah, that's where that is at. So let me know if there's any questions based around that. Alrighty. I don't think there's anything else too much to show there because it's all, as with many things, it's usually just the nitty gritty of getting it a design sort of functional and working. I'm liking the way that this is broken up at the moment. The only thing that might change is the doors. You can see on this version, which is my working version here, I've got a little bit more detail here for printing, like a little maintenance hatch and warning signs. Might do something on the top as well, but yeah, the doors are basically going to be fitting here, and that's basically what I'm thinking with that. I was going to make this a stretch goal, but I kind of feel like a lot of people are going to expect to see something very Expanse-like. I'm a little bit worried because I think the PDCs kind of take it to the point where people will start saying, hey, that's a Rocinante. Now, I've had that as well from people with the transport. Speaking of, we can switch over to it now. So when this first came out, I had a few comments where people said that not only was it like inspired by the Millennium Falcon, but that it was the Millennium Falcon. I guess for some people they haven't seen Star Wars in a while, or hadn't at that point, which is, you know, kind of impressive considering the shitty Disney movies that have been out the last couple of years. But still, let's not get into a debate about that. Are there going to be missile racks also? Yeah, okay, I'll briefly go back. What you'll notice is that this whole section here in the midsection is actually empty, and that's intentional because I plan to be basically adding back the missile launchers or torpedo tubes, if you will, that the Rossi has, because it has four PDCs, kind of like this, but then it has like the missile launchers here and there, and then the rail gun is just basically mounted here somewhere. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Missile racks will be a feature, but the idea being that you don't want to interfere with the interior, so basically the main difference will be that these parts, you can kind of see these rectangles here. That's basically where I'll have sections to hook up the side sections that'll have missile tubes. So yes, getting back. Man, the lighting in this sucks. Why does it suck so much? Alright, we've got some there, but we might, if we turn this off, very dim, but then if we turn on our render light as well as our work lights, I'm wondering if we might get that nice look as well. Okay, yeah, render lights are turned off. There we go. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's a good balanced version of things. Okay, so last time what we did was we took this top deck version where it had the, I think this one was the observation deck. We took that base model, moved it over to this one, and we were sort of blocking out the interior space here. So this represents, I might divide this up because it's gonna be more obvious, but each of those cubes, hey, where did that go? I should probably save that in the background. Anytime there's a pause, I kind of freak out and I'm like, ah, save. Let's see. So you can kind of see those are inch squares there. So we're just mapping out the interior space. These top sections are going to have to get switched out for these ones. So I should probably do that actually. So I'm going to move that, and I'm going to move that, and I believe that we should just be able to copy this over. And it should just slot right into place. Yeah, it did. I surprise myself sometimes. Okay, let's duplicate this. We need to mirror it, and we're looking at the arrows here. Good morning, Rax333. So yeah, we just want to move the pivot point here. We actually have some cheats down here in the bottom corner. It's very... Oh, my head's in the way. So yeah, the red is our X. The yellow, which is the active operator right now, is blue. And the Y is up. So we want to mirror this in the Z as far as I'm concerned. So we just turn this to a -1. And there we go, we've got the mirrored version. And this sort of continues forward another, I believe, 4.5 inches. Let's see. If I put on the wire mesh. If you guys have any questions, just send them away. Rax333, you just missed the tour of the this week's progress on the Nodonante with the PDCs. So be sure to check them out later. They should be fully articulated. Anyway, so yeah, we're just mapping out the interior space here. It was throwing me off before because this actually goes in quarters. So we basically want a midsection here. We want to cut this off like there. Because the lengthening, you can kind of see it's along this line and that line. They don't quite match up. They're a little bit odd shaped. So that's something we're going to have to consider. But we basically want to be getting these sorts of parts as well. So we can see from this one. So I just have to reorientate myself in this scene because it is a bit different. So we've already fixed these angles. We were talking about whether or not to add holes to support this deck in, but that would mean changing all of these pieces up as well. And I was kind of the general impression that we might let gravity do our work. Only 7 a.m. heading to work. Fair enough. Yes, it's about 2:15 in the afternoon here in very sunny, not Sweden. So yeah, you guys can actually see the ship in the background. That way, I think it is. I guess there it is. There. God, I really got to work on this mirroring. And I do have a few pieces that have got another 25 minutes to go. After that, I think I'll be test printing these PDC parts. So, yeah, this is a mess. The idea today is to get it to not be a mess. So we were grabbing the ceiling part here and talking about printing this in a different way so that we get this interior space, which is quite... I think this will turn it into a quite spacious thing, and of course then you can use these extenders to get it to go even further. And these, I believe, are correctly correct on the grid. Let's see. Oh, great. They're 3.5 long, I think. Is that right? Yeah, 3.5. God, where am I getting these measurements from? The important thing is it all lines up in the end. It's just these early ships. I didn't want all of the exterior parts to line up exactly with the interior parts. The reason being that I believed it would add additional stability, and that may be the case, but it certainly makes it hard to sort of follow. So from the designs we were looking at, we wanted to make something that could potentially lift open here in the middle. So we're going to need to basically borrow some of these sections to kind of figure out exactly where we want these cross sections to be. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to... God, it would be really nice if these were easy to see. Can we do something about that? Maybe if we make these a different color. Something like that. Not Lambert one apparently. Put painted look on them. Okay, so we've got a little bit more of a checkered feel there, so we can see where the grid is. Hey Chris. Alright, so yeah, I think we'll build these two parts will be separated. We'll make this one stretch along there, and then we'll have these extenders, which will be, I believe, 3.5. Yeah, let's just get these checkers going so we can at least see approximately where the grid is. I'm just gonna center the pivots here. We're gonna rotate it 180 degrees. We should get that continued pattern, so we can basically see the inside contents there. And it's mostly just for reference again. So we should just be able to move this one because no. Guess we've got to turn it up on end. No. I guess it doesn't want to behave. What? Has it got a hole or something? No, it's not. Not the correct shape. Oh, god damn it. Oh, whatever. Whatever, dude. We're wasting air. Okay. So, unfortunately, since we don't have Zaroma here, I'm probably going to mumble on a little bit more than usual. So let's separate this. Let's see if we can't make this into like a 2-week affair instead of a 3-week affair. So we want to combine these, I think. We've got our frame there. We have some open locks there, but we probably want to... I think we want to go wider with these. So let's see where our... Yeah. We want to extend back this space. So I'm just gonna... What can I do here? I can put this on a layer maybe, and just turn it into a wireframe as reference, so we can see where it is. So the things we do and don't want. We want... At the moment we don't want this ring, because we're not going to have a rear turret. Now I'm not saying that won't change in the future, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So right now we're just going to aim for connecting these two parts and getting this interior space that we want. So the easiest thing is to bring forward these edges. The grid is maybe a bit too big. We're going to drop it down to 40 subdivisions, and you can see now that it's moving a lot slower because we want to create a little bit of... You can see here there's just a little bit of a gap between, and that's what we want to do here. We want to make it come back one little bit there so that we've got our let's see, we want this, we want this, we want these, at least to start with. Now these aren't incredibly straight, so I'm going to do the trick of moving to scale mode. I'm just going to move these back here. Very quiet in the chat today. There's still a few of you there though, which is nice. So by all means guys, if you have questions about this or the Starship 5, let me know. I am talking to myself otherwise. First sign of madness. So I'm actually going to ditch these polygons. We can always just extend those again in the future if we need to. I'll probably go back a tiny bit more with these edges that I had before. The reason being that we want to create a wall here. So we'll just go back about the same. There. Right. Just driving. Yeah, well, you know, I'm not encouraging you to tie up and drive. That's unless you're like got access to a driverless vehicle. That's another thing. Don't text and drive, man. Hope everyone over in the US is staying safe. It's like 2020 is a bit of a rough year for everyone. We are about to experience the end of the limited lockdowns we've had, which really have only been as bad recently as you're not allowed to travel further than 2 hours away, which, I mean, southern Sweden's not that big. You can drive from one side to the other in about 4.5 hours maybe. Let's see. So yeah, we're getting this wall, the idea being that we're just blocking out where we want the interior to end and start. Wait, I got that on the wrong lock. Normally I listen to music instead of the sound of my voice. So let's see. So by just working on one side, we can then mirror the work in the end, and if we need to add a bit of asymmetry, we can do that afterwards. I probably won't in this case. It's sort of a symmetrical YT type design, that being the idea behind it. So actually we can go all the way over to here, because I'm going to bring this out to the side. And usually, like, I decide afterwards where we're going to use the open locks to connect things. So right now, this is all going to be enclosed. So what I might start doing is just going to detach these open lock ports. Actually, the best way to do that is just to delete the polygons around it. Okay, so I'm just going to move this to the side because we'll want this at a later date, I believe. We'll probably want one in here somewhere. We'll just have to check how it lines up with the other one. Yeah, this will require some support and bridging. That's just one of the unfortunate side effects of like my earlier transport delta, and to a lesser degree the oh fuck, did I take out a bunch of that, or is it not there? It wasn't there. I've already ruined it in the past, it seems. So oh well, haven't decided yet if this will print out as one halve or not. I'll have to consider the width, because we're probably looking at about 6 inches. I can't remember exactly how wide the Ender 3's platform is. If anyone's got a second, maybe they could look up the build size for an Ender 3. Post it in the chat. I'm pretty sure it's like around about 22 centimeters or something like that. And that would be about 6 inches, right? No, 8. So it should be good. I realize some people are starting to print this stuff in using other methods such as SLA. I can't recommend it because of the cost. Yeah, you'll definitely get a better result because you have higher fidelity. But we definitely I definitely don't want to encourage people to be printing out my ships. Although I can see some really crazy people, crazy in the best way possible, are attempting to print out the Chimera in SLA, which is ambitious. I'll put it that way. I mean, I do all right with my ships, and I have a pretty decent, pretty decent living out of making ships these days. But I do not earn the kind of money where I'd be making the Chimera out of SLA. Sweden is expensive, but you know, those taxes go a long way to lots of good things. Let's see, we'll get rid of that, and we basically want to map these back together. And it looks like it's a flat surface there. It's about the same height, so we should be able to link it all up. So as far as timelines are concerned, the Notanante expand style ship, we're probably pushing into like early July, if I'm being honest. I had a meeting with Mika from Doku's in the last couple of days, and he decided that we're going to go for a nice alien world sort of scene. The sort of scene I'm looking to replicate is the one from episode 1 of season 4 of The Expanse, where the ship lands on an alien planet. Spoilers. Yeah, it's been out for almost 6 months or something, so people should have had the chance to watch it. I can highly recommend both the books and the actual TV series is great. I only just started reading the books myself, and I was surprised how well written they are. So I've only really read the first one so far, but you know, basically when the sun comes out, I hop into my hammock with a beer and try and read a few chapters. Okay, so we're starting to get the frame out here. It's all one object at least. If we look, it's a little bit more cohesive than the model we're basing it off. Not perfect by any stretch, but yeah, we probably want to do something here if we're going to have a ceiling that lifts off. They could be done in I think it's possible. I do. Let's see. Learning a lot, just watching, very relaxing. Is this just an extra still, or still a Kickstarter stretch? I honestly, I haven't really thought about it. I think I'll probably just put it up for free for anyone that's got access to the stretch version of the Delta. Yeah, I don't know. I think I see these live streams. Okay, if I'm working on this ship, it's all about sort of building the press for it, trying to get people excited. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I don't know that a vertical ship will be everyone's cup of tea, but it actually is a little bit more portable than the other ships, or rather, it's easier to hold together because of the way that gravity's working on it. So far, I'm pleased with the results. Let's see. I think what we want to do is just duplicate these so we can get an idea of. Hey, what do you know? That is 3.5 there. Inches. Okay, it's an odd measurement, but I guess that's what we're going with, because that's what the rest of the ship is. So I don't know what possess. Well, it's all about not. Obviously, if I rebuilt this from the ground up. Also, gaming takes up much less of the tabletop. Yes, storage-wise, very convenient. You can see it only. Doing it again. it takes up about the same room as maybe 2 shuttles if they were side by side. So definitely a lot more table space. And the idea being that you can lift off the levels like so. They're not connected they're connected using the wedges that I put out for the clips. There'll be a new version of that with this ship. I've refined the design. Oh, hang on a minute. I think it goes this way. I have refined the design using a different kind of clip. No worries, Blake Tech. No worries at all. You can always just watch the early part on YouTube where I tour the ship. What you can see in the background is standing on all 4 legs right now. Which is a very... I felt so excited to come to work yesterday because I knew I was going to be testing them. And then this morning I put them together and it worked fantastic. Now why did I make a copy of that one? I already had one. That was just stupid. So we're looking at getting this section in. Normally it is like this, but we want it to be raised up like that. And to have any hope of opening that up, we need to kind of emulate this section, beginning that section, and moving on into this section. So really we're better off extending this lower part and just taking advantage of these top parts. I guess that's what I was preparing last time, no doubt. Let's see, so we want to move that there, and this will be a part of our upstairs. So this, let's see. Saw it on 2 legs on Discord. Yep. Will it be streaming an hour later from now on? That's the idea. Yeah. I think it's slightly easier for most people. I've been noticing that when we start out, we only have 2 or 3 people on at the usual time, whereas now, you know, we've got about, I don't know what you guys are seeing, but 7 or 8 people. The important thing for me is that there's enough people that I can actually engage with, because there's nothing worse than just talking to yourself for a couple of hours. It seems a bit, how to put it, yeah, it's just a bit of an unnatural thing. So I guess streamers are used to it. I guess I'm not as much used to it. Let's see, let's try and get that there. Or is that just a case of, yeah, I think we might just extend this along all the way to here. And I've just got a few nifty little tools, they're commercial ones, but you see we get these shapes here. That's because we don't have smoothing on. But if I go into my AM tools, turn on quick smooth, it selects it all for me. This is one of those things where it's like an additional plugin, so I'm not really teaching anyone Maya. Last week we had 11 or 12 at one point. Yeah, it got up actually quite a bit higher. I think we were hitting the 20s at one point. So I don't know what happened there. I don't ever expect there to be many people. Maybe during an actual campaign when there's a lot more hype, but at this sort of point, it's more about I don't know, having a regular presence and just sharing what I'm up to, so that I guess overall people get excited. I find that with Kickstarter, the game changes every time I do a new campaign. So it's like, what worked in the last campaign advertising wise doesn't work in the next one, or they've changed the rules so that one method is now illegal, or, you know, unfavored. So last I checked, they really want you to have organic growth, and so I don't know if there's even a point to doing any advertising, which is, you know, one way to generate traffic, but I don't know if it really works. It's kind of hard to tell these days. Alright, so let's see. None of this is really matching up. Might just make these match the, let's see. Well, that's not quite on the grid by the looks of things. No, it's a bit off. So the question is if I'm going to try and match these up. Let's see. Alright. No more new questions. So basically the idea here is to switch these so that they're connected in a similar way. Just because it'll make repeating the pattern easier. This has 8 of those. This is a 4 section. So this is a half of the normal section. So basically, we'll do a split at the end here. But we want this to sort of... I guess we want bits of this to sort of match up and end there. And then eventually I might do a version of this where you've got another turret ring or something. It's a bit hard to know right now exactly what the idea is, but this will match up at least by the looks of things. A lot of this might seem a bit boring. Let's see, good to get feedback earlier on the build process too, I reckon. Yeah, it can be for sure. I find with the stretch goals too, in particular, when I'm making those, it's really good to do these kind of sessions because people can understand why one request might be really easy to do, but another is really, really hard. I think you always get people from previous campaigns coming back. The question is always how to draw in the new people. I do have a print running at the moment. It's got 1 minute left. It's actually the underside, the support for the central engine of the Notanante. No Zeroma tonight. I think he must have crashed out. I know he keeps odd hours and it would be reasonably early in the morning for him. So we have some plans for lighting the engines, which I'm really hoping it's going to work out. I even have some ideas where I could feed a smoke pipe through so we could get some sort of launch stuff going on. Did anyone watch the I was going to say Tesla, but I mean the SpaceX launch on Saturday? Actually got it up. Second time's a charm. Let's see, have you actually used some of these designs with 28mm gameplay to try out the spaces? To be perfectly honest, I started making these when we were still playing Traveller, and we didn't get to a point where we could actually use them at that time. So the short answer is no. All I'm playing at the moment is like D&D and fantasy stuff, no sci-fi. So, and then because of COVID, a lot more like digital. So let's see, I'm not happy with that. That doesn't seem like the right level. That was the right level. It's just a bit of a mean edge to it by the looks of things. Oh well, I'm sure that'll be fine. So we just want to like salvage the parts that we can here, and basically we want the rim of this to come down. We've got a bit of a rim to work with. That should select along there. So I'm just going to do the old scale trick. It may already be scaled. Nope. Yeah, the launch was good stuff. I just was sad that they cut out the feed. I guess it's like something, I don't know if it always happens when it's live, but both the feed when they detached, I think the first stage, and the feed when this first stage landed cut out also like a couple of seconds before it landed. I don't know if that's normal, but I can see why some people might get into conspiracy theory territories. But I'm sure they showed it landing properly. Let's see. So I think we might come all the way down there to be at the same level as the top of this. Although it kind of slopes on the original. Nah, we'll do this. This'll be better. I think it gives us a more level playing field there. And then we're going to grab like maybe these ones. And we're just going to go all the way down to this level. Okay, so it is normal. It's just the vibrations. I figured that must be the case, but yeah, anyone who's actually seen, like, what is it called? The Flat Earthers, Beyond the Curve, or whatever it is. Hilarious documentary. I'm guessing that there's no Flat Earthers in here. Being interested in space travel and whatnot. Let's see. Either that or I just lost a few customers. It's a shameful state of affairs. Alright, so I guess we're going to have the same sort of like dip down here. Although where's the top of it? Not much room there. Not much clearance. No, not a great loss. But, you know. And to be perfectly honest, actually, I prefer... You know, you got to choose with your wallet a little bit on one end of things. Like, I'm not saying you can choose your customers, obviously, but I think I've got some really great supporters, to be honest. The vast majority have been super supportive. And there really haven't been many conflicts, and even those that have gotten a little bit passionate about things, that there's something to be said for the level of passion that's there. So I'm just going to bring these back to this wall. Move the pivot. And we want to match there. I think that should be at the bottom. We've got some intersection going on. I'm just going to gradually manually fix this so it's not an issue. Might even drop off all of that, because at the end of the day this is not enough room to have some air clearance and to have like a top. So I think we're gonna have to go up. We're gonna have to bring this floor up. I'll get this on the grid. Let's see. Just expand that a little bit. So we'll see. This is what I mean by some things are easier than others to accomplish. I mean, we're looking at we're almost through, you know, a good half hour of the time we have on this today, and I don't particularly feel like we've gotten very far. But you know, these kind of modifications usually take many hours or days. Hey, what happened to our lighting? There we go. Alright. So I think this level's going to be kinder to us. It's going to bring us closer to this sort of saucer shape. And if we bring this line back up again, can be a bit hard to select sometimes. We're going to have a nicer appearance, I think, overall. That's so thin, it's almost irrelevant. Okay. So it should be recognizable, and I mean, really, that's a bit too steep to look nice. I'd rather have it a little higher up. We've got some unwanted vertexes there. Since this is going to be solid, we don't have to worry about this inside, so let's gut it out. And let's see, is that everything? We need some more on the back side. Yeah, that's not needed either because the curve isn't there. So we can get rid of this basically, and then we should be able to select that. So we only got the top section left. So basically we want to get these lines so that they're a little more in keeping with the top here. Let's see. The hardest thing is trying to please everyone, especially when you need to make a living from this. Some people expect a lot of custom work or special designs that would only be used by them, and they can't understand why you cannot devote a lot of time to their ideas. Yeah. I've said a number of times, like back in the beginning, I think I used to listen to every single critique from every single person out there. And, you know, there's a lot of different people. They work in a different way. Some people express their desires, design-wise, as demands. That's happened before. And I'm probably... I think on a balance, it's a positive thing, but it certainly has been a detriment at times that I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I think it's old Catholic guilt from when I was a kid that's left over. So I do like to try and accommodate as many of my backers as possible, but there does get to be a point where it's like impractical to do things, and I think I've gotten a lot better the last couple of years at saying no to certain things, or you know, sometimes I hear an idea and I like it. There's been a lot of suggestions, for example, to adapt to do 3D designs for like Nemesis so that you can play on a 3D board. And I've made a few modifications. When it's something that, you know, will take me 5 minutes to experiment with, fine, I'll delve into that. But I got out Nemesis, I think when I was recovering from jet lag from my trip to Australia. You know, like a couple of months back. And I looked at the pieces and I was just like, thing is, yes, you could take my existing parts and do something that might approximate most of these things, but I know myself and I'd not like that, so I could see myself putting in a month of work, and I'm not prepared to do that these days unless I have a good indication that it's what people actually want. And yeah, I can't please everyone, as you mentioned, Blake, but it is you can certainly get consensus on ideas, and that's how stuff like the Sandcrawler work. And it really doesn't take that much consensus, to be honest. I don't listen to a single voice, but I will listen to multiple voices saying the same thing over and over until it happens. So that's really the best way to get a consensus. So that way I know that there's more than one person that thinks that this idea is cool. Because, you know, some people are just passionate about their ideas, which is great. Why isn't that line thick? That's a bit weird. Maybe I don't have this scene set up the same way. Yeah, in any case, the I knew from the outset. Well, look, if I'm being honest, the Chimera is not everyone's cup of tea. I think in the end we ended up having about 35 to 40% returns of existing customers, like returning backers. So it's not really as much as you'd think it would be. And I realized that that the ship is actually really, really big, and I knew that I'm not only asking you to fork out, like closer to $100 for the designs. I guess it wasn't $100, but you know what I mean. A fairly expensive ship design, and then on top of that, you've got what 5-6 kilos of plastic, and that's like $20 each. So you want to build it. It's still like infinitely cheaper than what it would be um, to get like Games Workshop to put out something that size. You know what I mean? But there's just you got to strike a funny. It's a funny balance with that. Like there are some people on My Mini Factory that only buy free products, and they're not looking for anything that's commercial, which is fair enough. But I kind of see that as that's not my customer. And sometimes I've had people say, "Oh, the shuttle costs too much. It's like $20 now on My Mini Factory." Yeah, but I've put in 3 months worth of work to it, and it's something like 50 pieces or more, excluding the clips. Well, okay, with the clips probably, but still, like it's not the same as buying a miniature of a single dude. And you'll find people that want free miniatures. You'll find people that think $5 is a good price for a miniature. And it is. But like, I mean, you always have these negative voices, and it's taken me quite a bit of time to figure out that like you just got to not care about it, really. Just the people that you want to keep are your good customers that respect your work, respect the time that goes into it, and respect the fact that they have to cost what they cost because of the amount of time it takes. And I find usually I've got hundreds of people like that. For stuff I want and not out there, learning to do it myself. Not anywhere as pretty or good, but good. Pretty but good enough. Just started learning Blender. Yeah, I mean, like that also will give you respect for how much time these things actually take to put in, work-wise. Um, yeah, the shuttle got a retrofit for free. The shuttle price is reasonable. Um, yeah, I know. Like, I really honestly feel that it's not that bad for what it is. Don't feel obliged to though, by any means. It's I don't expect anyone to pay for my stuff if they don't want it. They don't want it. It's as simple as that. And it's a niche market. So I mean, I'm never gonna have thousands. I can look at Printable Scenery or Rocket Pig or the what is it, Skies of Sodane or whatever it was. I'm not going to get those kind of figures on Kickstarter because there's just not as big a sci-fi interest. And then sci-fi too, it's like you can go a gazillion different ways with the designs. Some people like the Star Trek style, sometimes people like the Star Wars style. There's a ton of different styles, a ton of different ship sizes. It's like crazy. Whereas fantasy, you can have it's all different flavors of the same sort of thing usually. It's dragons and orcs and goblins, and I've got lots of ideas about what you could do. I don't really understand why there are not more people that are actually paying attention to what Wizards of the Coast is putting out and accommodating for that. Like I've never seen any Batiri goblins for Tomb of Annihilation or anything like that. So it's just a niche market. Even the market itself on Kickstarter is a niche market. Like, okay, Printable Scenery, Rocket Pig, they do really well. They bring in like the equivalent of, upwards of over 200,000 New Zealand dollars at least. What's that? 150,000 US or something like that. I mean, those are really good numbers. But when you look at the big picture, it's still a niche market because not everyone has a 3D printer. Not everyone, has the means to print this, which is a limiting factor. And I'm just glad that gaming and 3D printing seem to be increasing at an awesome rate these days. So yeah, it's just one of those things you just got to accept, I guess. It's harder in the beginning when you just want people to love you. uh, that sounds so sad, but it's kind of where it comes from. Any artist will tell you that they just want their work to be loved and appreciated. Um, so yeah, this is what happens when I ramble, when I don't have Zaroma to keep me in check. Thank you. So let's see. I think we should go in here. Go in there. But yeah, learning Blender, I mean, getting creative yourself, it'll give you more respect for the time it takes. And I think, honestly, it's worth putting in the time to learn to do something really well. Because the rewards are much better. Like anyone that's... I really wouldn't want to be someone starting out in 3D right now, trying to get into the Kickstarter market, because if you just look at what's going on, there's like dozens and dozens of projects by the month these days. It's like every month there's like about 50 STL projects out there. So you got to make sure yours is the one that people can't like resist the urge to get. And that's getting harder and harder. I have the benefit of being established and having, 4 campaigns behind my back. If you're just starting out, you don't have that advantage. It's going to be so much harder. So I'm really glad I got into it at the time that I did. I wouldn't want to be starting out right now. But at the end of the day, if you make good stuff and you do a good job, it's going to get recognized and you're going to succeed. Like, and that's its own reward, really. Like, it gets to be it's a fantastic feeling when you succeed, especially like I've had a couple of different businesses. They haven't I've scraped by all right, and but I've never done anything like this where I've not only succeeded but also really love the work that I've been doing. So there's that. Oh god, what is happening there? Okay, so I'm just trying to get this all to the same sort of level. Get the gap closed. Sci-fi needs more love. Fantasy has a large audience, but like you said, it's just variations on the same things. There's so many Kickstarters that are run by people who have never backed anyone else. I like to support campaigns that are run by people who... Yeah, I've definitely backed other people. I think we took that up last time. 3D modeling is fun, and if you do feel like it is fun, yeah, you're halfway there already. Like, that's the indication that you could imagine doing it like professionally. Because it is a lot of long hours, and it takes a while to get something to look good. And this is a very basic form, but I mean, look at the time that's been wasted already. So there's nothing that comes automatically. Automation, is getting better. Some things are a lot quicker to do than they used to be, but in general, when it comes down to it, it's a fair bit of work. Let's see, is that actually straight? I think so. So we've got a bit of an odd shape there. Yeah, no, I think it's important to support other Kickstarters. But then, like, also it's the amount of effort that people... I understand there's a upfront cost getting stuff, painted and printed properly, but the amount of people that just go with really shitty renders. Like, I don't think I've got great renders, to be honest. I've just got a, basic shader that I apply that sort of lets me avoid actually painting the vast majority of things. It's all just time savers, basically. But I always get some stuff printed, and I always get that stuff painted as well. And even if you just have a shitty version of that, well, that's not true. You need to have a decent version of it, but you got to show people the potential of your product for them to invest in it. And there's so many people that just, do a couple of models, take a couple of shitty renders, and then stick it out there and hope that people buy it. And yeah, sure, people always do. There's always, someone that's willing to throw in, if it's not overpriced, because that's always an issue as well. Some people, they think of the amount of time that they put into it, and then they get the wrong price points on things. I don't know that I always get it right, but because I find it hard to sell at higher prices after the Kickstarter. But then, the Kickstarter version has all the goodies. Let's see, going to get the Chimera Fest. Wow, that's ambitious. You have everything, but highly would recommend the shuttle and the Pathfinder before printing the Chimera. Yeah, the Pathfinder is I really like that, actually. I wish I did more like that, and that's also one of the reasons I don't want to give an exact date for when this next Kickstarter's going to happen. Because I want to do the job properly. It's so important to success, and I've just had enough times where I've been like, every single campaign I've run, I've been like, fuck, I just wish I had this printed. Like, I've always rushed, I've photographed the exterior, the interior is not finished, and I don't have that on day one. And I don't know how much of a difference it makes and how much is like psychological. It's hard to say, but I do think it does make a difference. And you really want to get that momentum going the first couple of days, so you want to hit the big bucks. It's more about like how long I can keep going with this sort of thing, how viable it is, if I can get a bit of help doing some things. I was in search mode a couple of years ago. Well, not months ago, really, before Corona. I was looking for someone to work with, but and I still do have people I'm working with and looking into it, but Corona kind of made the choice for me. But I'd say overall, this has been really good to me. There's not many people that can go to work and say that they absolutely love it. Alright, so that's a separate piece. We don't need to do too much there. Sometimes those sharp lines, they get us some interesting shapes. So we're going to have to block this out. Looking at the clock, I've been on this for an hour and 10 now. So I guess we'll pick this up next week. Finishing up for today, and we'll do a little bit of detailing and sort of get this to be one piece. Some kind of opening top, that's going to take even more time, so I think we might leave this for now and come back to it after we get this sort of into a printable and detailed state. So next week I am going to do some detailing here, so we get the kind of fidelity we've got on here. Probably can go a little bit higher than what the base is, but we'll see. Let's see. As far as the ship here is concerned, it's not coming out until I've had Brian have a crack at it. Brian, by the way, is the guy that painted the Pathfinder. That was absolutely incredible. So he's offered to work with me to to get the Notanante painted up. So I've got Proteus that's printing it in the UK. Going to send it to Brian. Can get it painted up and sent to Sweden, and then we'll photograph it on a set where we're going to build in the meantime. So let's see. Yeah, Blake Tech, I'd agreed with that. But also, in the beginning, I really wanted to have someone physically here to work with. And I'm working with some really talented people that do minis as well. It's just going to be hard to find someone that I can stick on the payroll and be comfortable enough to, get to the point where it's like, yeah, okay, we have the money to be able to stick someone on the payroll. You know what I mean? Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this up so I can finish working on the articulated PDCs. Pretty happy with that, how this is going to come along. And yeah, it's going to be in the base version. Alright guys, I will see you next Friday, and we'll continue this then. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks especially to Brazveen, Blake Tech, and Rax333 for keeping the chat roll going, so I'm not just talking to myself. Don't forget to check out our Discord channel, probably where I'm most active. We're also on Facebook. And you can, of course, check us out at seconddynasty.com, where you can also see the links to those places. So, that's it for me. Ben out. See you guys next week.